Hi there, I'm Bella Sims and I make custom content for The Sims 4. Over the last couple of weeks I've been working on a commission set from a lovely person who saw the bear onesie that I did, and I included a Glamrock Freddy swatch in that, and they wanted me to make a cosplay set for Sundrop and Moondrop from the new Five Nights at Freddy's game. Firstly, I didn't play the game and I don't really have any interest at all in horror games or spooky games, so I don't know a lot about it and I just referenced screenshots for this whole thing. I didn't even know that they were called Sundrop and Moondrop, or Sun and Moon, until someone pointed it out to me. I just called them the daycare attendant. So this is going to be a longer video because it's almost 18 hours of work condensed down, but I'll try my best to explain what I'm doing or my thoughts at the time. Let me know if you'd rather see longer videos like this, or if you would be better to watch if they were split up into individual parts. I knew I wanted to start off with the mask, and I had in my mind the method that I would go about it. This ended up just being freehanding the shape and filling it in with faces. Was it the best way to do it? No idea. But while it looks like I struggled a bit, I actually found a technique that worked for me, and if it works, it works. For reference, the mask alone took 4 hours from start to finish, not including the moon variant that I left pretty much to the very last minute. That added an extra 2 hours since I already had the base part done and it was just an edited version of the sun mask. Once I had the flat version of the mask done, and because I made my topology follow all the different shape features, I extruded out the faces that formed the second higher layer. How I saw it, there were 3 different main layers to the design, plus the rounded cheeks that sit out even further. The base layer being the face on the right, the second layer is most of the face that forms the moon shape, and the third layer is the lips around the mouth. And once I have those main layers separated, I can add in the extra height detail, like the smooth rounded areas and the tip of the nose that sits higher. And then at the very end, once all the shape detail is in on the flat surface, I edit the entire thing so that it's more spherical. Since it's a mask and the idea is for cosplay, I had to think about how the mask would be constructed in real life. I came up with a simple band that runs around the back of the head that will hold it up, and connects on each side of the back of the mask by simple, ring band things. Although, in real life, with the weight of the mask, it would probably need a band that runs over the top of the head too to stop it from falling down, not just around the side. But in this universe, it's more than enough.
What is reality? Obviously, no one can say, because it isn't words. It isn't material, that's just an idea. It isn't spiritual, that's also an idea. reality is this.
Texture painting is always one of my favourite parts. There's not too much to my method, I just fill in the basic colour for each section, go in and add rough details, build up different layers of colour and detail as needed, then smooth it out a bit. You can see me selecting and masking faces as I work on different sections, which just keeps things a bit neater, and then I just kind of stitch them together so that they blend together seamlessly and don't look like separate pieces. There are some things that are a bit difficult to achieve or areas hard to reach by painting on the 3D model, so I usually do what I can and then open it up in Photoshop to touch up whatever I need. Sometimes I'll do that partway through if there's something I need to do in order to continue working in Blender. Like, I often come across like a pixel or two that Blender just doesn't fill in, and so it stays transparent and then it will mess up the texture if you try and like blend that out or anything. So I'll just go into Photoshop, touch that up, and then reload the image back into Blender and continue working like nothing ever happened. The weight painting for this would normally be super easy because it's considered a hat and would just go 100% to the head bone. And what I do is still easy, but it's a little bit different. I basically made the mask compatible with a hat slider mod, which when assigning specific weights, you can use the use of in-game sliders to scale the hat, rotate it, move it, all that good stuff. If you're a content creator as well, I would highly recommend doing this. It takes like 10 extra seconds and your hats will still work normal for anyone who doesn't download the slider, but for those that do have it, it adds so much added functionality and it's really versatile. I've been adding this functionality to all of my hats and headpieces since I discovered it like sometime last year. So this is the first test of it being in-game, so I can already see some things that do need to be modified. Particularly the specular map is a bit too shiny for my liking, and the mask itself I would like to be a bit bigger, but those are easy fixes. As for the behaviour, it moves and scales as it should. The black on the mask is just her hair clipping through, so I'm not too worried about that, and making use of either a different hairstyle or making use of the slider to like move it around that piece of hair is really good. I will always test the mesh itself before going ahead and doing all my other LODs. Otherwise, if there's an issue with, for example, the weights, that's going to transfer through to the other meshes as well. Sometimes when removing edges for the lower LODs, it is unavoidable for the texture to mess up. So remember that you can always just modify the shape of the mesh or the placement of your UV to fix it up so it still looks as good when zooming out in game. Now that the mask is done, well, at least the sun version, it's time to move on to the pants. I was also super keen to work on these because it's a unique shape and it also posed some unique challenges. I just made the base mesh like a regular pair of pants and then modified the shape. My method is to use a combination of face snapping and the shrink wrap modifier to extrude out one plane along the body to get my base shape. Then I can apply the modifier to start working on the unique shapes. As far as the puffy bottom of the pants goes, I found sculpt mode to be pretty handy for this in combination with edit mode. It's just lots of small adjustments, stepping back, realizing it's not enough, and then repeating the process until I'm happy with it. The frills on the ankle and waist are easy to make. I just duplicated the edge loops that they would extrude from, separated them out into a new object to work on them individually. I made sure not to move the original vertices though, so that I can connect them back to the mesh easily later. The overall time frame for the pants ended up being about 5.5 hours.
What is reality? Obviously, no one can say, because it isn't words. It isn't material, that's just an idea. It isn't spiritual, that's also an idea.
In hindsight, I would not have done the pants how I did them. Because I was just doing the sun variant first and left the moon variant till the very last, I overlooked the fact that the moon does not have stripes on the pants. And because it's all painted in Blender and on one layer, it meant I wasted a lot of time later editing out the stripes to then have a plain texture to then add stars onto it. I edited that all out though, so don't worry, you don't have to sit through that. What I should have done was just do a plain yellow texture with the shading and details, edit it in Photoshop to add the red stripes, so that I would still have a plain version to make blue and add stars in later. But like I've said before, we live and we learn from our mistakes, and at least I won't do the same thing next time. At least I hope not. Time to move on to the shoes. I don't have too much to say about these. I made the side profile shape and then extruded them across the foot and then smoothed out the joining section to give it some shape. I was contemplating using sculpt mode to round out the shape, but by the time I thought of it, I was pretty much done with just doing it in edit mode, so I just didn't bother. Again, the power of hindsight. Because the shoes are pretty simple and don't have much mesh detail, I make sure to include a lot of texture detail, including seams and creases and stitching. Even the soles of the shoes have lots of detail in them.
a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. Because the moment you have a situation where you are really in control of things, that is to say, in which the future is almost completely predictable.
I left the shirt till the very last because I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it. For the pants and the shoes, I could just make them as they appear in the Five Nights at Freddy's game, with minor adjustments to make it fit into the Sims universe. The character is an animatronic though, so it doesn't exactly wear a shirt, but I'm making a shirt as a cosplay of the body itself. I ended up making a somewhat tight-fitted long sleeve shirt with most of the details like the ball joints and seams in the texture of the shirt, and then creative frills and ribbon and added accessories like I did with the pants. The total time spent on the shirt was just over 4 hours. As you can see, I'm just using the same method as before with the pants to build up the shape of the shirt. I usually do the main loops first as a guide for the rest of the piece, like the loop around the neck, the loop around the shoulder, loops around the chest, and then the lines connecting them that will be the UV seams later. Because the shrink wrap modifier sticks to the surface, I will apply that once I'm done with the main shape and then add detail to the shape, like the looseness between the breasts and under the arms, which just makes it look more realistic. No piece of clothing, unless it's wet or specially fitted, will stick to the body like that, especially around the chest, because the breasts are going to stretch out that fabric and fill in the cleavage. I just feel like that's a realistic element that is something that's overlooked, and it really does make a difference.
What is reality? Obviously, no one can say, because it isn't words. It isn't material, that's just an idea. It isn't spiritual, that's also an idea. Reality is this.
At this point, I've got Sundrop mostly completed, and this is how they look in game. But I haven't created anything for Moondrop yet, so I begin with the mask. It's simple enough that I can just take the sun mask, remove the sun spikes, fill in the gaps, and create a nightcap to go over it. Once again, I faced a cosplay-esque dilemma. How do I go about creating the hat itself? I figured it would look odd if it was just a hat on the mask itself, so I extended it like the person is also wearing the hat but stretched it over the front of the mask too. To keep most of the detail, I edited the colours of the mask in Photoshop with adjustment layers. All that really needed changing was the colours, and that way I can reload it in Blender and then work on the texture for the hat. For this project, I changed the mode of the brush itself a lot. Because Blender itself doesn't have layers, I can set the brush to multiply or overlay or add to get the effect that I want without using different layer modes like I can in Photoshop. The mask was the hard part though, because it needed a new mesh. All I had to do for the shirt and pants is edit the texture itself. I say just edit the texture. I did end up spending I think an hour or so just editing out the stripes on the pants to get it back to a plain colour. The shoes are the same for both characters, so I don't need to do anything else for that.
Because the moment you have a situation where you are really in control of things, that is to say, in which the future is almost completely predictable.
At this point, I'm pretty much done with the main components. All I need to do is create the different LEDs for each piece. This just consists of selecting different edge loops and removing them to gradually make it lower poly. For the pants and shirt and shoes, I also need to add in the lower poly body parts to fill in the body for each LED. Because while I can make my shirt lower poly, I do still need the lower poly body underneath it so that it matches up with the other pieces. Do I know what I'm talking about? Yes. Can I portray that very clearly with words? No.
Reality is this.
Even though this was a commission piece, the client did request that it was available for everyone to download, so if you are interested in checking it out for yourself, I'll have a link down below to my Tumblr page where I post all of my content. Thanks for sticking to the end if you did, or if you just skimmed through it, that's okay too. I just hope you enjoyed the process. But this is what the end pieces look like all together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.